Discover 3 hours of miraculous sermons, transforming faith revealed through divine messages. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, the people of Israel found themselves ensnared in a moment profound with both terror and hope. The sun hung low over the horizon as they stood at the edge of the Red Sea, its churning waters crashing violently against the sandy shores. Fear gripped their hearts, thickening the air with anxiety, for Pharaoh's army thundered behind them, relentless and unforgiving. Among them stood Moses, a man chosen by God, his face a tapestry woven with uncertainty and divine purpose. The fate of this great multitude rested squarely on his shoulders. The shadows of doubt loomed larger than the mountains that framed their view, as anguished cries broke the frail silence. "What have you done to us, Moses? Were there no graves in Egypt that you brought us out here to die?" Their wails were laced with the bitter memories of enslavement, their faith shakier than the ground beneath their feet. The sun glimmered off the rocky cliffs, yet the path ahead felt draped in the murky waters of despair. Yet, in this moment, the presence of God enveloped Moses like a consuming fire, and from the depths of that silence he spoke with authority. "Why do you cry out to me? Tell the people of Israel to go forward. Lift your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it." The heavenly mandate settled in Moses' heart like solid ground, as hope painted the canvas of uncertainty with the promise of deliverance. With trembling hands that echoed his inner turmoil, he obeyed the voice of the Almighty. He raised his staff toward the tumultuous sea, and the winds howled in response. A divine surge swept through the waters, parting the Red Sea under the Pharaoh's might. The waves roared and crashed, then stilled, revealing a path shimmering with hope through the dark, icy waters. Gasps snaked through the throng of Israelites as they beheld the miraculous display of God's power, their collective doubt momentarily dissolved by awe. As Moses led them onward, the massive people began to traverse the seabed, the walls of water towering on either side like ancient fortresses. Each hesitant step they took was accompanied by the rhythmic pounding of their hearts, where fear intermingled with burgeoning faith. Together they marched through the expanse of the sea, a dry path carved by the hand of God, a shared journey towards freedom. Yet, as they emerged on the other side, the wilderness stretched endlessly before them, bare and uninviting. Relentless thirst and gnawing hunger clawed at their spirits. It was here, in this raw desolation, they began to murmur once more, lamenting for the comforts of enslavement, questioning the God who had led them through such a wondrous escape. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select All Notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's Word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey. I'm always amazed how God's Word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. Settling into the uncertainties of the rugged wasteland, a presence in the form of a cloud by day and fire by night guided them, a continuous reminder of God's faithfulness. Nevertheless, they wrestled with dependence, longing for the security found in bondage rather than the freedom forged through trust. The echoes of their journey reverberated through the barren lands, urging them to comprehend the transformation God desired. Would the wilderness become their sanctuary, or would it become their prison? As questions spun amidst trials, the divine tapestry of their history unfolded, beckoning toward Mount Sinai, where the voice of the Almighty was destined to reveal the law, a covenant of enduring love crafted to sustain them through faith. Moses stood before the multitude, their faces etched with despair and uncertainty. The reality of their future seemed bleak, and whispers of rebellion stirred among the ranks. The sweet taste of freedom they had savored at the heart of the Red Sea was now mingled with bitter memories of Egypt, where their hands once toiled under oppression. As evening deepened, a cool breeze swept through the expanse of the wilderness, carrying with it an unspoken urgency. Moses gathered the elders of Israel, their eyes filling with a mixture of trust and trepidation. "Hear me, O Israel," he proclaimed, his voice resonating with the authority of God. "Our journey is not yet complete. We have witnessed the power of the Lord. He has delivered us from the hand of Pharaoh. It is he who will lead us through the wilderness." The elders exchanged apprehensive glances, their faith straining against the weight of worry. Among them was Aaron, Moses' brother, who spoke with fervor. "Let us not forget the promise made to our forefathers. The Lord will guide us as he has promised." But even as he spoke, their stomachs rumbled in protest. It was not long before hunger took its toll, and the murmurs grew louder. "If only we had died in Egypt, where we sat by the pots of meat," cried a voice from the crowd. "Would God lead us out here to starve in this wilderness?" At these words, the heart of Moses sank lower. The Lord, knowing the plight of his people, spoke to Moses once again from amidst the cloud. "Behold, I will rain down bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a day's portion every day, that I may test them whether they will walk in my law or not." With renewed vigor, Moses conveyed this promise to the people. "The Lord will provide. Each morning you shall find fresh bread upon the ground. Gather it and eat. Know that it is the Lord who feeds you and sustains you." As twilight descended, the people settled into an anxious expectancy. Their fatigue mingled with a flicker of hope. They had been liberated, but not yet transformed. The very essence of their dependency was under divine scrutiny, their faith tested in the barren landscape. The next morning, as dawn broke, a miraculous sight awaited them. The ground was blanketed with fine, flake-like substance that shimmered in the sunlight. The people stared in awe, questioning the manifestation before their eyes. "What is this?" they asked one another in hushed tones. "It is the bread the Lord has given you to eat," Moses declared, encouraging them to gather according to their needs, each household bringing forth their portion, rejoicing in God's provision. And so it was that each day began with a miracle, the gathering of manna, a strange yet sustaining food from heaven. Yet in their quest for sustenance, the lesson of trust lingered in the air, just as the cloud hovered above, ever constant, illuminating their path through uncertainty. But soon, even this heavenly provision sparked discontent. "Our souls loathe this worthless food," some began to murmur once more. They yearned not only for bread, but for the savory meats of their former lives in Egypt. Their hearts wandered as their feet followed the path of disobedience. In response, the Lord's presence intensified, and Moses faced both the glory of God and the frailty of his people. Would they ever comprehend the grace of their wandering? Would the wilderness forge within them a heart filled with faith, or would it expose the depths of their rebellion? Yet, unbeknownst to them, a greater plan was unfolding, orchestrated by the hand of the Almighty. For this was not merely a journey toward a promised land, but a transformation of a people, a preparation for the covenants that would emerge from the furnace of testing. And as the sun cast long shadows upon their path, the hearts of men would soon bow before the holiness of the Lord, preparing for the sacred moment when Mount Sinai would erupt with divine revelation. What they could not yet see was the voice of the Almighty, loud as thunder, descending upon that mountain. And in that sacred encounter, God's law would offer guidance, and his covenant would promise life abundant, for it is through obedience that they would find their true freedom. As the days passed in the wilderness, the people of Israel continued to gather the heavenly provision that the Lord had given them. Manna covered the ground like dew each morning, yet their dissatisfaction festered like an unhealed wound, stirring up strife among them. The voices of complaint grew louder, and soon the multitude turned to Moses and Aaron, rebuking them for leading them into such a desolate place. "Would that we had stayed in Egypt," they cried, voices echoing against the barren hills. "We remember the fish we ate freely, the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. But now our soul is dried away. There is nothing at all besides this manna before our eyes." Their discontent was palpable, trembling with a hunger that reached beyond mere sustenance. Moses, feeling a burden too heavy to bear, cried out to the Lord, "What shall I do with this people? They are almost ready to stone me." And the Lord spoke to Moses, "Gather for me 70 men from the elders of Israel, whom you know to be the elders of the people and officers over them. Bring them to the tent of meeting, that they may stand there with you." Moses obeyed, selecting men of wisdom and stature from the multitude. As they stood before the Lord, the Spirit that rested upon Moses was imparted to them, and they began to prophesy, drawn into the divine presence. But among them there were 2 men, Eldad and Medad, who remained in the camp. Yet even upon them fell the Spirit. They too prophesied in the name of the Lord. A youth ran to Moses, exclaiming, "Eldad and Medad prophesy in the camp." Joshua, the son of Nun and Moses' aide, urged, "My lord, Moses, stop them." But Moses replied, "Are you envious for my sake? Would that all the Lord's people were prophets, that the Lord would put his Spirit upon them." The wind whipped through the camp as the murmurs of discontent faded momentarily under the astonished cries of the people witnessing the power of God manifesting in their midst. Yet, even with this display of divine favor, their hearts remained restless, hungering for the tangible comforts of their former lives. Then the Lord spoke again, "I will provide meat for these people. They shall eat for a whole month until it comes out of their nostrils and becomes loathsome to them, for they have rejected me." With a heavy heart Moses questioned, "Shall flocks and herds be slaughtered for them? Shall all the fish of the sea be gathered for them?" The Lord replied, "Is the Lord's hand shortened? You shall see whether my word will come to pass." And so it was that a wind brought quail from the sea, covering the camp and filling the air with their cries. The people rushed to gather the meat, but a heavy pall descended, for while they chewed, the wrath of the Lord burned against them, causing pestilence to strike where they stood, and in the midst of their indulgence, the cry of the people fell silent, echoing in the desert night. Moses, standing once more in the presence of the Lord, felt the weight of the people's hearts, their longing for comfort blurred by their forgetfulness of who had called them. As the silence enveloped them, the Lord leaned down in revelation, saying, "You are a people set apart, a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Your journey is a preparation, and your trials shall refine you as silver is refined. Trust in my provision, for soon I will give you my law, and through it your hearts shall be transformed." Little did they know, the glory of the Lord would soon descend upon Mount Sinai, and the thunderous voice of the Almighty would remind not only Moses, but all Israel of his divine sovereignty and unfathomable grace. What awaited them on that holy mountain would shape the very foundations of the covenant that would last through generations, a promise that would resonate through the ages, calling a people unto himself. And it came to pass that in the days following the gathering of quail, the people remained restless as they journeyed through the wilderness. The desert sun bore down, and the sands whispered beneath their weary feet. Their hearts were like an unsettled sea, tossing and turning with every wave of discontent. Moses, seeking the face of the Lord, went unto the tent of meeting. There he sought wisdom, for he knew that behind every murmur of the people was a longing for assurance and a call to something greater than their daily sustenance. As he prayed, the voice of the Lord thundered forth, "Moses, gather the people. They must learn my ways and the holiness I require of them." Thus Moses summoned the multitude to the base of the mountain, and there they stood, trembling with anticipation. The Lord's presence began to envelop the mountain, a dark cloud descending, and lightning flickering as if the heavens themselves held their breath. "Behold, I am the Lord your God," the voice proclaimed in booming authority. "You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourselves an idol in the likeness of anything in heaven above or on the earth beneath." The words of the covenant flowed like a mighty river between heaven and earth, instilling fear and reverence in every heart. The people quaked as they listened, feeling their unworthiness against the backdrop of His majesty. "Tell us not, O Moses. Let God speak to us directly lest we die," they cried, their fear of the Lord coursing through them like fire. Moses spoke, comforting them, "Do not be afraid, for God has come to test you, that His fear may be before you, so that you may not sin." Now, as the Lord continued to reveal His commandments, the air thickened with the weight of His holiness. "You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house, nor his wife, nor his male or female servant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor." Each command pierced their hearts, a mirror reflecting their shortcomings and urging them toward holiness. And when the commandments ceased, the people turned to Moses, saying, "All the words that the Lord has spoken, we will do." Yet even as they vowed their obedience, a heavy cloud loomed over them, hinting at the struggles to come and the temptations that awaited on their journey. Moses ascended further into the mountain, drawn unto the Lord, where the veil of glory enveloped him, and within that sacred space the Lord provided the stone tablets engraved by His own hand, a testament to His covenant and a beacon of hope for a wayward people. But even as Moses retreated into the elements of divine communion, the hearts of the people began to wander. They grew weary in waiting, voices whispering doubts and fears. How could they follow a God they could not see? In this very moment, when their faith waned and uncertainty blossomed, the Lord was crafting a plan more profound than they could envision, a rescue from their own waywardness, a promise of a Messiah who would one day fulfill the law and move among them with grace. The sovereign God, in His infinite wisdom, turned their hearts toward His greater purpose, awaiting the day when they would not only know the commandments, but would have His very Spirit written within their hearts, ushering them into an everlasting covenant where their true transformation would be fulfilled. And it came to pass that as Moses lingered in the cloud of God's presence, the people at the foot of the mountain grew restless. The days stretched forth, and the sun was relentless. Their eyes wandered toward the heights of the mountain where the glory had descended, yet their hearts trembled with unease. In the midst of their discontent, some rose up among them, voices loud and inflamed. "Come, make us gods who shall go before us. As for this Moses, who brought us out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him." Their hearts turned back to the comfort of the familiar, and their faith faltered like a flickering flame in the dark. Thus they gathered their gold and ornaments, casting their treasures into the fire, fashioning a calf of molten metal, declaring, "These are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up from the land of Egypt." And there arose a great confusion, for they offered sacrifices to the lifeless idol and engaged in revelry, their hearts abandoning the covenant they had just pledged. The Lord, seeing the great wickedness of His people, spoke to Moses in the mountain, "Go, get thee down, for thy people which thou broughtest out of the land of Egypt have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside quickly out of the way that I commanded them. They have made them a molten calf and have worshipped it." Moses' heart sank, for he understood the weight of sin they had embraced, a turning away from the God who saved them. With urgency he descended the mountain, the stone tablets carved with the very finger of God in his hands. As he drew nearer, the sounds of merriment reached his ears, a cacophony of chaos piercing the sacred solemnity of his mission. When Moses beheld their idolatry, his anger burned fiercely, and he cast the tablets from his hands, shattering them at the foot of the mountain. "What is this people doing?" he demanded of Aaron, who stood trembling before his brother's fury. "Why have you allowed them to be led astray?" Aaron stammered. "Do not let the anger of my Lord wax hot. You know the people that they are set on mischief. For they said to me, 'Make us gods.' And I cast the gold into the fire, and out came this calf." Moses' heart remained heavy. He stood among the chaos, holding the remnants of God's gift, a shattered symbol of their disregard. He called out, "Who is on the Lord's side? Let him come unto me." and the sons of Levi gathered around him, ready to reclaim the fear of the Lord. To discern their waywardness, Moses spoke, "The Lord, God of Israel, has commanded, 'You shall not make for yourselves any graven image.' And now, in his fierce jealousy, he will bring judgment." And they were purged in that day, leading to a great many falling by the sword, a sobering reminder of the consequences wrought when the heart sways from God's path. Moses returned to the Lord, pleading for the people. "Oh, this people has sinned a great sin. Yet, if you will forgive their sin, forgive it. But if not, blot me out of your book." The Lord responded, "Whoever has sinned against me, him will I blot out of my book. Now go, lead the people unto the place which I have spoken of." And in this moment of divine interplay, a greater purpose unfurled. For as the Lord's hand sought to guide his people through judgment toward restoration, hidden in the midst of the affliction lay the promise of redemption, a new covenant that would be written on hearts. As Moses went forth to lead them into the next phase of their journey, he sought the face of God anew. The Lord spoke again, "Behold, I will establish a covenant with you, and the cloud, which brings judgment to sin, will transform unto glory for those who believe." Thus the wilderness journey continued, a tapestry woven with divine mercy and sovereign grace, for the promise remained. A Messiah would come to redeem and transform. But the people might yet wonder, in the depths of their struggles, what lay ahead in this unfolding plan of God's unfathomable sovereign love. And it came to pass, after Moses had returned from the mountain, that he gathered the people together, his heart burdened with the knowledge of their sin. "Hear, O Israel," he called, "the Lord your God is merciful and just. He has shown us great wonders and delivered us from the bondage of Egypt. Yet we have turned from him and sought after vanity." The people's hearts, stirred by Moses' words, trembled before the gravity of their actions. The golden calf, which had brought them so much mirth, now stood as a monumental testimony against them. They began to weep and gnash their teeth, mourning the loss of their relationship with the Almighty. Moses, seeing their contrition, cried out to the Lord, "O God, if thy presence does not go with us, carry us not up from hence." And the Lord spoke from his dwelling place, "My presence shall go with thee, and I will give thee rest." This promise filled the air with a profound peace, a sacred breath that washed over the Israelites like the morning dew. In this moment, Moses found courage and pressed on, saying, "Show me thy glory, O Lord." Then the Lord revealed his goodness to Moses, proclaims that he would make all his goodness pass before him. "I will show mercy upon whom I will show mercy," he declared, laying a foundation of grace that would echo throughout generations. "But thou canst not see my face, for there shall no man see me and live," the Lord warned, guiding Moses to the cleft of the rock. The Lord's voice, firm yet gentle, instructed Moses, "I will cover thee with my hand while I pass by. When I take away my hand, thou shalt see my back, but my face shall not be seen." Through this divine encounter, the essence of God's character unfolded, the balance of holiness and grace, judgment and mercy, the knitted fabric of his sovereign design. As God passed by, the mountains trembled and the earth echoed with the magnificent name of Yahweh, the Lord God, merciful and gracious, slow to anger, and abundant in goodness and truth. And Moses, witnessing this celestial display, fell prostrate upon the ground, worshiping the Holy One, trembling at the glory that shone around him. In the aftermath of this divine communion, Moses returned forth unto the people with the new tablets. The Lord had instructed him to carve a second set, for the Lord's covenant remained unfaltering, even amidst the people's transgressions. "The Lord has renewed his covenant with us," he proclaimed, as he unveiled the stones that bore the law anew, a testament of hope amidst despair. As Moses imparted these laws to the people, he reminded them, "Observe to do all that the Lord commands of you, for in these statutes lies life and blessing." The people, made aware of their failings, now stood ready to receive the Lord's precepts with renewed hearts, humble and eager to follow the path set before them. Yet the shadows of doubt lingered among them. They grappled with their failures and the fear of the unknown. "Will he truly lead us?" some murmured as they looked toward the wilderness stretching before them. In this moment of vulnerability, the Lord spoke to Moses once again, saying, "Behold, I will send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way, and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared." Thus, a boldness stirred within Moses, and he reached out his arms as he affirmed, "We will follow, O Lord. Lead us with your presence, for without you we have no purpose." And he declared to the people, "Your hearts have turned, and the Lord shall not forsake you." As the camp prepared to journey forth once more, a divine anticipation hung in the air. For the unfolding of God's sovereign plan was a mystery that beckoned them to trust, revealing that the path ahead was not merely a wilderness, but a journey toward the promised land where His presence would dwell among them eternally. Would they walk by faith into this promise, which only the Lord could fulfill? Only time would reveal the depths of God's purpose in their wandering. And it came to pass, as Moses instructed the people in the ways of the Lord, they began to prepare their hearts and minds to journey forth. Each tribe organized themselves, gathering their tents and possessions, while the elders discussed among themselves the path they would take. An air of expectancy filled the camp, and despite their earlier fears, faith began to rise anew. Moses addressed the Levites, the priests of the Lord, saying, "Sanctify yourselves today and tomorrow, and let us prepare to approach the presence of the Lord, for He has commanded that we shall be a holy nation." And the Levites, with urgency and reverence, set about their solemn duties, cleansing themselves and offering sacrifices as was ordained by the law. As they stood ready, the Lord spoke again unto Moses, "Thou shalt command the people to make haste, for I will go before them as a pillar of cloud by day, and a pillar of fire by night." The promise of God's presence, guiding them through the uncertainty ahead, illuminated their spirits. The very essence of His faithfulness stirred hope within every heart. Moses then spoke to the children of Israel, saying, "The Lord has set before us a path of righteousness. Do not fear, for He shall lead us through the wilderness unto a land flowing with milk and honey." His voice resonated with power, igniting the hearts of the people. They replied with one accord, "All that the Lord has spoken we will do." Yet, even amidst their declarations, the whispers of doubt were not silenced entirely. A young tribesman named Eliab voiced concern. "Will our clothes wear out in this vast wilderness? What if we hunger and thirst? How will we survive without the flesh pots of Egypt?" His words resonated with the anxious thoughts of many. Moses, seeing the turmoil within them, turned toward the Lord in deep intercession. "O Lord, you have promised to provide for us. Give us bread from heaven and water from the rock, that we may know your faithfulness." And in that moment, as he prayed, the Lord responded, "Behold, at twilight you shall eat meat, and in the morning you shall be filled with bread. Then shall you know that I am the Lord your God." In this promise the people's eyes widened with awe and gratitude. They spoke among themselves, "He will provide for us, as He did for our ancestors." The unity amongst them grew stronger. The fear diminished, as they anticipated the manifestations of the Almighty's power. As they set forth, the cloud of the Lord led the way, its presence both daunting and comforting. It guided them into the harsh expanse of the desert, where the sun scorched the earth. Yet they felt the cool presence of God's assurance. Each step was a step in the unknown, yet they moved forward, hand in hand, bolstered by the unity of their newfound faith. Yet, even as they marched, the Lord whispered truths to Moses. "Fear not, for this journey shall be a time of testing and a refining of their hearts. They shall learn who they are as my people, and who I am as their God. Remember this day, for I am preparing them to be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation." And thus they journeyed through the wilderness, obedient yet often wondering what awaited them. The land whispered promises of abundance, while their hearts wrestled with memories of Egypt. In that vast expanse of uncertainty, as dusk fell each day, their hearts still yearned for reaffirmation of his promises. "But what if we falter?" they asked silently, unaware that their journey was shaping the very fabric of God's sovereign plan, a covenant not only for them but for generations yet unborn. For the more they walked, the more they would realize that they were under the shadow of an everlasting promise. What awaited them beyond the horizon was a revelation of divine provision that would alter the course of their lineage forever. And it came to pass that on the morrow the people arose early, their hearts beating with anticipation, for the Lord had promised bread from heaven. As they gathered in their tents, the sun began to rise over the horizon, painting the sky with the colors of dawn. The atmosphere was electric, charged with hopeful expectancy. Mothers and fathers whispered to their children, recounting the tales of God's mighty acts and the miracles he had performed for their forefathers. Moses stood among the multitude, his voice ringing clear, "This is what the Lord spoke. At twilight you shall eat flesh, and in the morning you shall be filled with bread. Then you shall know that I am the Lord your God." The words seasoned the air and ignited belief in the hearts of those assembled. Yet, in the shadows, Eliab's doubts lingered, though he kept them to himself. As evening fell, the people watched with anxious eyes as the sun dipped into darkness. Their hearts were a mixture of excitement and trepidation. Suddenly, a rustle was heard in the wilderness, and in the twilight, quails filled the camp. The people gasped in awe, and the very air sang with the melody of God's provision. Gathering the quails, they prepared their feast, their laughter echoing amongst the tents. But with the dawn, a soft, dew-like substance began to blanket the ground. As the sun rose higher, the children cried out in wonder, "What is this?" For it was manna, bread from heaven. They did not know what it was. Moses instructed them, saying, "This is the bread which the Lord has given you to eat. Gather as much as you need for each day. Let not any remain until the morning." And so they did, gathering the heavenly food with joyous hearts and grateful hands. Yet some among them, driven by greed or doubt, kept portions until the morning. And when the sun warmed the earth, they found that it had bred worms and stank, for the Lord intended his provision to be received with trust each day. Thus the lesson unfolded. Daily bread requires daily trust. The people learned to rely upon God's mercy anew each day, and a spirit of unity blossomed among them as they shared the gifts of heaven. They spoke amongst themselves of the unfathomable goodness of the Lord, sharing remnants of the feast with one another, their bellies full and their spirits lifted. But lo! As the days continued, the hardship of the wilderness began to bear heavily upon them. Whispers of longing for the leeks and onions of Egypt resurfaced, like a rolling tide. Their hearts faltered as they recalled the comforts of their former life, losing sight of the freedom they had gained. Eliab stirred up voices of dissent, and the people grew restless, forgetting the power displayed among them. Moses, observing their discontent, retreated to speak with the Lord, pouring out his concerns. "O Lord, the weight of this people is too great. They murmur against me." And the Lord spoke tenderly to him, "Gather unto me 70 elders of Israel, that they may bear the burden of the people with you." Thus Moses returned, his heart steady, for he knew that God's hand was still upon them. As they looked out toward the horizon, uncertainty loomed, yet each miracle they witnessed was a reminder of his faithfulness. The Lord was leading them deeper into his covenant promise, shaping them not only as a nation but as a people prepared to know him. Yet, as they settled that night around the campfire, a profound question loomed larger than all the trials they faced. How would they, in the shadows of doubt, come to trust the one who had taken them out of bondage? The answer waited in the unfolding saga of his sovereign plan, drawing them ever closer to a promise that would resonate through generations to come. And it came to pass, on the morrow of their gathering and the outpouring of heaven's provision, that the people found themselves in a stretch of wilderness fraught with thirst. The sun blazed above them, and their throats became parched. As they remembered the sweet waters of Egypt, their spirits grew faint, and they began to murmur against Moses once more. "Why have you brought us out of Egypt to die of thirst in this wilderness?" they exclaimed, their voices rising like a storm. Their desperation echoed through the camp, stirring fear and discontent. Eliab, emboldened by the gathering dissension, raised his voice above the rest. "Let us return to the land of our bondage, where we lacked nothing but were now led into this desolate place." Moses, hearing the cries of the people, fell upon his face before the Lord. In the sacred stillness he pleaded, "O Lord, what shall I do with this people? They are ready to stone me." And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, "Go on before the people, and take with you some of the elders of Israel. And in your hand you shall carry the rod with which you struck the Nile. Behold, I will stand before you there on the rock at Horeb, and you shall strike the rock, and water shall come forth from it, that the people may drink." Moses arose, his heart filled with resolve. He gathered the elders and led them to Horeb, where the Lord directed him. The elders followed, witnessing with astonishment the unfolding of the Lord's command. Moses took the rod, the very symbol of God's power, and struck the rock as the Lord had commanded. Immediately a great rushing sound was heard, and living water gushed forth, filling the dry land. The people rushed forward, their thirst quenched, filled with awe and gratitude, for they saw the miraculous provision of their God. "Is the Lord among us or not?" Eliab muttered, his skepticism still lingering. Yet, as the water flowed, countless hearts turned in worship, recognizing the Lord's steadfastness. Their thirst was quenched, but deeper than water, a realization was bestowed upon the hearts of many. God was with them, even in dry places. Thus, in the days that followed, the people learned the worth of gratitude amidst hardship. They gathered around the tabernacle, and Moses recounted the wonders of the Lord, urging the parents to instruct their children in the ways of God's faithfulness. "Let them not forget," he declared, "that He is the rock of our salvation." Yet, in the silent watches of the night, Eliab wrestled with the stirring conviction that brushed against his heart. "How could I doubt?" he pondered, "for even in my moments of unrest, He proves His faithfulness." Unbeknownst to him, God was weaving a story in the substance of his soul, an invitation to surrender beneath the weight of mercy. However, clouds of uncertainty continued to gather overhead as they moved deeper into the wilderness. "What shall we eat? What shall we drink?" the people asked. And lo, while they remained in their murmuring, a greater vision awaited to unfurl. For the Lord spoke again unto Moses, saying, "I will rain down bread from heaven for you once more. But prepare your hearts, for I shall teach you that man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from my mouth." And thus the stage was set, the people standing at the precipice of further divine discovery, nestled in the heart of uncertainty. Little did they know that the echo of their journey would resonate through ages, revealing an unfathomable truth. From their trials, a deeper legacy of faith was being forged under God's sovereign hand. What greater mysteries would unfold as they ventured onward, clinging to His promises? And it came to pass that as the Israelites continued their journey, their hearts remained a complex weave of faith and fear. Now, approaching Mount Sinai, the very air crackled with anticipation. The Lord summoned Moses once more, leading him up into the thick cloud that covered the mountain. The glory of the Lord enveloped him like fire, and it was here the Almighty revealed the commandments that would shape His covenant with His people. "Moses, behold!" the voice thundered, echoing through the depths of the mountain. "These laws are a reflection of my holiness. They are a path to life, a guide for the journey ahead. Write them upon your heart, and tell the people that obeying them will lead to blessing. Disobedience, however, shall lead to death." As Moses stood in awe, he felt the weight of this ancient undertaking. He carved the words into stone tablets, each commandment a beacon of truth and righteousness. "You shall not have other gods before me," he spoke to the people below, his voice clear and firm against the mountainside. The very essence of their identity was at stake, woven into the fabric of these decrees. You shall not make for yourselves a graven image, for I am a jealous God. And as Moses descended the mountain, the people caught sight of his countenance shining with divine radiance, for he had been in the presence of the Lord. Fearful, yet reverent, they said to one another, "What has he seen? What is this glory upon him?" Moses, knowing their frailty, spoke gently, "The Lord has given us guidance. Let us not forget our calling to be a holy nation, a kingdom of priests." Yet, even as he shared the commandments, doubts still lingered. Some began to murmur about their hardships and their longing for the comforts of Egypt. "What if we cannot keep these laws?" they questioned, faces shadowed with uncertainty. Understanding their fears, Moses gathered the elders again, speaking with wisdom imparted from above. "Know this, beloved, your strength will not come from the flesh, but from the Spirit that is within you. Trust in the Lord your God, for he fights for you." Days turned into weeks as the people wandered farther through the wilderness, grappling with their struggles. The desert, though harsh, had become a school for their souls. In their weakness they learned to rely on the everlasting kindness of God. Their hands gathered the daily manna, their hearts echoed with prayers of gratitude, and gradually they began to understand the true nature of their liberation. But lo, in the nights beset by fear, many still ached for tangible signs. Will the Lord truly do what he has promised? Eliab's voice, once riddled with skepticism, now quivered with a yearning for certainty. Moses, having fervently prayed and interceded for the people, stood before them one last time, surrounded by the elders. He raised his hands towards the heavens, interceding, "O Lord, show them your glory. Show them that you are indeed with us." When the Lord spoke again, the entire camp trembled in awe. "Tell the children of Israel I will make a covenant before them, a promise that I will dwell among them." And as Moses conveyed these promises, the people understood. God had not only freed them from bondage, but was now forging them into a nation, their hearts aligned with his in mutual commitment. The final test soon approached, a battle with the Amalekites. The people were weary, but Moses stood firm, raising his hands in prayer throughout the fight. Every time his hands fell, the Amalekites gained an advantage, and every time they were raised, Israel prevailed. Seeing their leaders struggle, Aaron and Hur held up Moses' hands, helping him steady them until sunset. Together they witnessed the victory granted not by human strength but through dependence upon their God. Thus, the battle was won. The Israelites rejoiced, having witnessed firsthand the power of God manifested through their obedience and unity in faith. They sang songs of praise in the wilderness, known now forever as the Song of the Redemption, declaring, "The Lord is my strength and my song, and he has become my salvation." In this moment, God's promise loomed larger than the vast expanse of wilderness, echoing through generations yet to come. He had brought them not just from Egypt, but into a heartfelt relationship, with laws written not merely on tablets of stone, but birthed anew within the people. As they prepared to continue to the promised land, they finally began to grasp the depths of his mercy. Every struggle, every moment of doubt, was part of a divine journey towards becoming the people he desired them to be, a people of faith, hope, and love, destined not just for a land flowing with milk and honey, but for an eternal communion with the Almighty. With their eyes now fixed on the horizon, no longer looking back to familiar bondage, the Israelites continued forth, trusting in the journey set before them, for they knew that the Lord's faithfulness would carry them home. In every step, they discovered freedom, not just from Egypt, but into the abundant life ordained by the Creator. And it is in the resolution of this journey that we, too, are invited to partake. For the God who breathed life into the covenant with Israel now extends his hands to you and me, asking us to follow him in faith, to shape our hearts, trusting that our wilderness is but a stepping stone towards a promised eternity in his presence. Friend, let us embrace this journey together, grounding our faith in His unfailing love. For every moment is pregnant with the possibility of divine encounter, drawing us closer to the heart of God. If this story has touched your heart, subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next powerful biblical narratives that can transform your life. Leave a like now to help spread God's Word through the algorithm, and comment below with your spiritual reflections. How has this journey impacted your faith? Don't wait one more second to share this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth.